Divisions. The year I turned 8, I knew change was coming to Grand Ronde. The res buzzed continuously with reports. Almost every night that winter, our family hustled over to the community center for what were called informational meetings hosted by the Indian agent. Even the elders' Friday night bingo was canceled, which almost never happened. I never understood everything being said. Us kids usually ended up inside the large community pantry, playing with old toys, or outside on the church's playground with the merry-go-round and swings. Even when it rained, I preferred to be outside with my cousins. But that day it was cold. Indians shouted at the white men in suits or at one another. Angry words flew, threats of battle. I cowered near the pantry window. "No, we won't leave our homes," one Indian said. "We do not want your money," said another. "You cannot trust the government," Cheech said. "They are offering us a better life," said Daddy. His view did not seem to be shared by the others. Frustration poured from the community room. Indians against the government, family member against family member, old against young. I stared out the window at the soggy playground outside. I felt like this was what the Indian agent must have wanted all along, us fighting. At home, I asked Daddy what the meetings were about. Why was everyone so angry? "The government just doesn't want to be in the Indian business anymore," he said, leaning back in his chair. Mama said, "Someone from the Bureau of Indian Affairs had the nerve to say, 'Kate, you might as well get used to it.'" Then she struck a match to light her second cigarette, with the first one still burning in the ashtray. The Bureau of Indian Affairs, or the BIA for short, was the government agency that sent those white men in suits to tell us Grand Ronders we were about to be terminated. Our old schoolhouse had just been painted a new coat of yellow. You would think if the government painted it, they were planning on keeping it. I didn't understand what they wanted with all our old buildings anyway. I worried about Chuck. "What about our cemetery?" I asked, looking over at Cheech. "They have promised not to take our cemetery from us," she said. I didn't know if I believed it, but maybe the government couldn't sell a graveyard anyway. The fighting at the community center didn't change anything. Our tribe was against termination, but the BIA superintendent lied and said we were for it, claiming we took a vote. But no vote was ever taken in Grand Ronde. But I didn't know any of this had happened. Spring came, then summer, and my birthday. I was starting to think we would be left alone, but we weren't. Chapter 4, The Oregonian. Summer had been full of fun times, me celebrating my 8th birthday and playing with my cousins and friends. Then one late August afternoon, I decided to race home from Cousin Harlan's house to give Cheech a new picture I'd drawn for our farmhouse walls. Cutting through the wild barley, I sprinted past his older boys, Mark and Chip, playing out in the field. With my waist-long braids soaring behind me, I almost made it past Pee-wee and Leroy, Cousin Harlan's youngest boy, when Leroy pushed her toward me. Pee-wee punched Leroy hard on the shoulder while I zigzagged to the side, leaving them behind. "Hey, Regina," Leroy yelled as he grabbed his shoulder. "Where are you going so fast?" "Home," I responded. Didn't glance back, just kept going. I bolted inside the house, calling for Cheech, ready to show her my drawing. The front door slammed against the wall, something never allowed. I was almost into the next room before I noticed there'd been no reply. I stopped. I listened. "Cheech?" A quiet sob whispered from the kitchen. I crept into the room, hugging my arms and picture tight to my brown plaid dress. The drawn kitchen curtains blocked most of the sunlight. Cheech sat at the scarred breakfast table, her wrinkled brown hands trembling, holding the Oregonian newspaper. I had never seen Cheech cry before. I held my breath. Somebody must have died, I thought. Could it be an accident at Daddy's logging camp? It wasn't uncommon for people to get hurt with chainsaws and fir trees crashing down. I finally breathed. What's wrong? Cheech looked up from the newspaper, her eyes red. Mine began to fill. The president has just signed a bill from Congress saying that we're no longer Indian, Cheech said as she wiped her eyes with a dish rag. We're no longer Indian? I dropped my prized drawing. My mind raced, trying to understand. All I could say was, but, what if I still want to be one? I felt devastated when Daddy came home and confirmed what the newspaper said. According to the Oregonian, it was the law, Public Law 588 to be exact, signed by President Eisenhower on August 13, 1954. The law said that the government didn't need to provide for our education, health care, or anything else as promised in the treaties. The government declared us only Americans now instead of our own nation. We didn't need a reservation anymore, nor our tribal roll numbers. Really? The article said that many other Indian tribes had been terminated in Oregon, and it had been happening to other tribes elsewhere within the United States. Mama bawled, covering her face with her flowered handkerchief. Cheech wiped away angry tears. Pee-wee and I nibbled on dry cornflakes at the table, as quietly as possible. Best not to ask questions when adults were upset. Well, it's done, Daddy said, sipping his coffee and staring out the kitchen window. Mama flailed. What are we going to do? She paced the kitchen. Where are we going to go? It's man, you are Indian, Cheech said to Daddy while stroking my hair. I am Indian. The girls are Indians. Fight this, she looked at me. For them. Daddy leaned forward. With what? Good looks? I know I'm handsome and all, but you know we can't fight the government. He stood up, facing us. It will all work out in the end. Trust me, I'll take care of us. And then Daddy took it upon himself to change our lives forever. Chapter 5, South Bend. Daddy had plans all right. In the late spring of 1957, Daddy signed us up for the federal government's Indian relocation program. The government promised Indians a better home, furniture, schooling, and a good job. Daddy called it an opportunity and seemed to believe it. Cheech called it an eviction. The termination law said we could buy our land if we wanted to stay, but we couldn't afford it. Almost no Grand Ronder could. The government marked up the land prices 2 to 3 times what the lots would normally sell for. Everybody on the res said no one should pay that much, even if they could. Some families who could afford it put their money together to buy their allotments or bought cheaper land nearby. This wasn't an option for us, but we held on as long as we could until we were forced to move. When Daddy announced we'd be leaving for Los Angeles, California in July, Mama sobbed for 3 days and smoked a whole carton of Pall Mall cigarettes. She got a headache so fierce she threw up. This didn't help her 100-pound body weight. I've never lived outside our reservation, I said, sketching on a piece of paper Mama had given me to keep me busy while she packed. What if I can't be Indian in Los Angeles? Of course you'll be Indian, Mama said, carefully folding my clothes into a battered suitcase she got from someone at the diner. You'll just be living differently. I scribbled hard, digging my pencil deeper into the paper and causing the lead to break. What will it be like? I asked. It will be like here, only different, Mama said. I slumped over my drawing. Geez, that's no answer. Daddy poked his head through my bedroom door. What's no answer? Mama says living in the city is the same as living here, but different. I rolled my eyes. What kind of answer is that? Hey, watch how you talk to your mama, Daddy said, sitting on my bed. Look at it this way. The city has houses, yards, schools, stores, just like Grand Ronde. They just have more of them and more people. He gave me a hug, but we won't know how it is living there until we get there, right? But what if we don't like living there? I looked at Mama. Can we move back home? Mama glanced at Daddy. Then she continued packing. Daddy smiled. Sure, but first we need to give Los Angeles a chance. When I was traveling in the Navy, and even now being away logging, I saw more jobs in other towns. I know I can get a better job down in California with more pay and not be gone from my girls all the time. I couldn't say I really believed him after listening to the other adults in the community. To them, we were about to be cheated, just like we always had been by the government. The summer morning we left, a misty fog covered the train station, so thick that the morning sun struggled to peek through. A few family members stood around saying goodbye. Cheech spoke in Chinetwawa to Aunt Rosie, her younger sister, and Cousin Harlan's mama. I considered it their secret language. When adults didn't want us kids to know what was going on, they usually spoke it. Cheech smoothed away strands of black hair sprinkled with gray from her sister's tear-stained face, and then adjusted her straw hat. Aunt Rosie pulled out a handkerchief from her overstuffed pocket, wiped her eyes, and blew her nose. Meanwhile, Mama busied herself by fussing over Pee-wee and me. Quit fidgeting with your dresses, she said. We need to look our best for the trip. Pee-wee and I wore matching store-bought crinoline dresses, but in different colors. Mine was blue. Pee-wee's was pink. I didn't care much for them. The fabric scratched so bad it was like hornets biting my legs. My black and white saddle shoes blistered my heels. I was stuck with this outfit instead of the wonderful handmade dresses Cheech sewed for us every year. You know, you can't trust the government, Cousin Harlan kept saying, smashing a cigarette against the sole of his boot. Remember what the elders have told us. Cousin Carlin and his family weren't coming with us. This would be the first time he didn't follow Daddy. Well, I can't stay here, Daddy replied, and you know how I hate working at the mill. I'm better than that. You're Indian, right? Cousin Harlan said. They both chuckled. You think the government will really find you a better job? Hey, the government and the Navy are the same. You get jobs you're qualified for. Same pay, same work. Move up in rank. Yeah, go. Go from scrubbing latrines to scraping paint off a ship. I remember. Cousin Harlan grabbed hold of Daddy's shoulder. You better hope those government men keep those promises, or you're going to end up without a canoe to get back home. Then they both chuckled and hugged. The train arrived. The conductor shouted for us to climb aboard. More tears. Big hugs. Daddy carried our bigger suitcase and Cheech's portable Singer sewing machine on board while Mama toted the medium-sized bag. The long train slowly cut across the land throughout the day and then accelerated into the night. The train's wheels pounded the tracks like beating a log drum. Windows shook like dance rattles. I looked outside. Darkness looked back. Cheech stared out the window too, her hands folded on top of her navy blue clutch bag. I scooted right up next to her. Pee-wee leaned in from the other side. Cheech wrapped her arms around us and looked down. You better go to sleep, she said. Morning comes early. I can't sleep, Pee-wee said, yawning. Could you maybe tell us a story? What kind of story? A good story, Pee-wee answered. A good story, huh? News now stories from Cheech weren't exactly the once upon a time, or they lived